Okay, first topic in Module 7, solving a radical equation that simplifies to a quadratic equation. So radical would mean that there's a square root in it, and it's going to simplify to quadratic, which would mean that it would have an x squared in it, which means we're going to be using the quadratic formula or factoring to solve it. Okay, so an example here would be an expression like u plus 1 equals the square root of negative 5u plus 19. Okay, so remember, if we have isolated the radical, then the next step is to square both sides. Okay, so we're going to do u plus 1 squared and the square root of negative 5u plus 19 squared. That will get rid of the radical on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, remember, we can use your a plus b squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Or you can write it out if you want, but we can do u squared plus 2u plus 1 equals negative 5u plus 19. Okay, we want it to all be equal to 0. So in the squared term, we want it to be positive. So we're going to add the 5u to both sides. And at the same time, we can subtract the 19 from both sides. So we'll have u squared plus 7u minus 18 equals 0. All right, now we can factor or use the quadratic formula. I think most of these are going to be factorable. So this would factor to be u plus 9, u minus 2. And we're going to solve. So we would have u equals negative 9 or u equals 2. Okay. And then we need to check our answers. There is a possibility that there's an answer that doesn't work. So we're going to plug it back in. And in general here, that's going to be when it would result in us trying to square root a negative. So if we look at the left-hand side of our equation, that'll be okay. You know, we can have negative 9 plus 1, or we can have 2 plus 1. It's the right-hand side, whereas if they're asking us to square root a negative, that's when the answer won't work. Okay, so if we have u equals negative 9, then negative 9 plus 1 would be the square root of negative 5 times negative 9 plus 19. So negative 8 is the square root of 45 plus 19. Okay, and this one's not going to work for a different reason. We'd have the square root of 64. The square root of 64 is 8. That's it. It is not negative 8. Your square root function, if you remember from Algebra 2, looks like this. Okay, the square root of 64 is 8. There's no negative 8 there. So negative 8 does not equal 8. So we can't use that solution. Okay, now let's try it with u equals 2. We'd have 2 plus 1 equals the square root of negative 5 times 2 plus 19. So 3 equals the square root of negative 10 plus 19. So 3 would be the square root of 9, and that does work. The square root of 9 is a positive 3. Okay, so u equals 2 would be the only solution to that one. All right, we can do another one here quick. The next example, we've got the square root of 27 minus 3x equals x minus 3. Okay, so following the steps, we will square both sides. Okay, get everything to one side. We're going to add the 3x. So we'll have negative 3x. We're going to subtract the 27. So we have negative 18. Okay. It's all set equal to 0, so now we can factor it. That would be x minus 6. X plus 3. So we would get x equals 6 or x equals negative 3. Okay. Now we need to check that answer. So if we plug in x equals 6, we'd have the square root of 27 minus 3 times 6 equals 6 minus 3. So the square root of 27 minus 18 would equal 3. And that'd be square root of 9 equals 3. So that's good. If we check our x equals negative 3, well, the square root of 27 minus 3 times negative 3 equals negative 3 minus 3. And honestly, I can just stop right there because I've got the square root of something being negative, which never happens. Okay, it's always a positive square root. So I can tell right away that x equals negative 3 isn't going to work, and my only answer is x equals 6. But if we keep going, we have the square root of 27 plus 9, the square root of 36, 6 does not equal negative 6, so that one doesn't work. Okay. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Another long name here. We've got solving. Oops, thought I switched. I like to use my different colors. Solving a radical expression. So again, that means that there'll be a square root in it. That simplifies to a quadratic equation. Which means there'll be a squared variable in it. And this is going to be with 2 radicals. So we'll have 2 square roots in here. Okay. So an example here is going to be a little messy here. The square root of 4x plus 33 minus the square root of 2x plus 28 equals 1. Okay, so now with this type of problem, we cannot isolate the radical. Okay, we can isolate one of them, and then we'll work with the other one later. So what we do here is I'm going to isolate the one on the left. So we're going to have 4x plus 33 equals 1 plus the square root of 2x plus 28. Okay, so we've isolated one of them. We're still going to square both sides. Okay, and it's going to get messy on that right-hand side. So when I square the left-hand side, good, it's 4x plus 33. When I square the right-hand side, okay, remember I square the first term plus 2 times the first term times the second term. Okay, and then plus the last term squared. So what that's done now is gotten rid of one of my radicals. Okay, so now I isolate the one that's left. So I'm going to subtract the 1, subtract the 2x, and subtract the 28. Okay, so I'll have 2x, and then 33 minus 28 would be 5, and then minus 1 would be 4. Okay. There's different ways to do this from here. There's a couple different steps you could do to simplify, but what I see here is that I can divide everything by 2. I can divide my 2x by 2. I can divide my 4 by 2. And I can divide 2 square root of 2x plus 28 by 2. Okay. Now it's like the last topic, right? So now I can square both sides. And I'm going to have x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 2x plus 28. I'm going to get everything to the left-hand side. So x squared plus 2x minus 24 equals 0. And I'm going to factor it. X plus 6, x minus 4. Okay, so x equals negative 6 or x equals 4. And I'm writing them over there so I can check my answers. Okay. All right. So again, I'm going to back up here a little bit. Okay. We isolate 1 square root and square. Okay. Then in this step, we isolate the other square root. Here we simplified a little bit. And then here again, we square both sides. And then solved. Okay, but now we need to check our answer. So if we plug -6 back into the original equation, we'd have the square root. And make sure you go all the way back to the original problem. I'm gonna run out of room here. Minus the square root of 2 times -6 plus 28 equals 1. So the square root of -24 plus 33 minus the square root of -12 plus 28. This is the square root of 9 minus the square root of 16 equals 1. So 3 minus 4 does not equal 1. Okay, so that x equals -6 doesn't work. Now I'm going to test my x equals 4. So we have the square root of 16 plus 33 minus the square root of 8 plus 28. The square root of 49 minus the square root of 36. So 7 minus 6, which does equal 1. So your only answer is x equals 4. Okay, so these will take you a while to do. There's a lot of steps there. I can do another one. Okay, we have the square root of 7x plus 30 minus the square root of x plus 3 equals 0. Or no, I'm sorry, I don't know why I wrote 0, it's 3. Okay, so again, remember we're going to isolate one of the square roots. So we're going to get that square root of x plus 3 to the other side. Okay, and now we're going to square both sides. Okay, now we're going to get all that junk to the other side. Sorry, my 9s are weird. Minus 9, minus 3, and minus x. So we'll have 6x plus 18 equals 6 square root of x plus 3. Okay, everything can be divided by 6. And now we square both sides again. And everything to one side again. Factor. And we have our two solutions to check. So x could be -3 or x could be -2. And we're going to check them and plug them into the original. So 7 times -3 plus 30 square root minus the square root of -3 plus 3 should equal 3. The square root, that's going to be -21 plus 30, so it's 9. And then the square root is 0. Right, so 3 minus 0 equals 3. That looks good. Okay, so this is definitely a solution. Now I'm going to check the -2. So we're going to have -14 plus 30, so it's the square root of 16, minus the square root of 1 equals 3. So 4 minus 1 equals 3. And that one also works. Okay, so both solutions work. Okay? All right, moving on to the next one. Next one is solving an equation with a root index greater than 2, so more than just a square root. This is problem type 2. Okay, so for this one, we can give an example of the fourth root of 2v plus 2 plus 1 equals 3. Okay, so now what we do is it's the same thing. Okay, it's the same thing as with the square roots, but we'll take it to the fourth power instead of to the second power. So everything to one side, we isolate the radical. Okay, and now we take everything to the fourth power. So we'll have 2v plus 2 equals 16. And then we just solve it. 2v would equal 14, and v would equal 7. Okay, now you want to check your answer on these. Okay, sometimes weird things happen when you take things to powers, especially when you like square things. Something that should be negative once it's squared is positive, and weird things can happen. So let's just check. So the fourth root of 2 times 7 plus 2 plus 1 should equal 3. Sometimes when you're checking, you put this little question mark over there because you're not sure if it actually equals. So the fourth root of 16 plus 1 should equal 3. So the fourth root of 16 is 2, and 2 plus 1 equals 3. Okay, so our answer is good. Okay, we can do another one of those. Well, this one's a little, ooh, I chose the wrong topic here. Just a second. This is what I just did. Okay. So this one has the cube root of 2v minus 14 minus 2 equals 0. So again, isolate your radical and cube both sides. So we'll have 2v minus 14 equals 8. So 2v is 22 and v is 11. Okay, and then check. The cube root of 2 times 11 minus 14 minus 2, does that equal 0? Well, we'd have the cube root of 22 minus 14, so 8. So 2 minus 2 equals 0, does. Okay, so good answer there. All right, next topic. We have solving an equation with exponent 1 over a, problem type 1. Okay, so for this one, I think these are pretty straightforward, it looks like. We would have u to the 1/3 equals 3. Okay, now remember, if you have a value x to the 1 over a, remember your power of a power rule. If we take it to the a power, then that's x to the a over a. You multiply those exponents, so x to the first. Okay, so since this is 1 over 3, we're going to take it to the third power. And that's going to be on both sides. So u is 27. Okay, and that's it. Okay, let me get another one here. Okay, so the next one, pretty similar. W to the 1/4 is 2. So we'll take everything to the 4th power. That W is 16. And that's it. Those are pretty straightforward. Okay, we'll get another one then. The next one is solving an equation that can be written in quadratic form. And this is problem type 1. Okay. This one is going to look a little bit scary, but it's not too bad. Okay, so an example in this one is we have x to the 4th minus 37x squared plus 36 equals 0. Okay, now all you do is you think about the fact that if this were x squared minus 37x plus 36 equals 0, we could factor it, right? We could do x minus 36 and x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, and that's kind of what you do here. So they talk about a substitution, and a lot of times in math we use u as our substitution variable. So make u be x squared. Then this equation is u squared, right? Because x squared squared would be x to the 4th minus 37u plus 36 equals 0. So then u minus 36, u minus 1 equals 0. So u would be 36, or u would equal 1. Okay, and then you sub back out. So x squared is 36, or x squared is 1. Okay, if you square a number and you get 36, then that number has to be 6 or negative 6. And over here, it'd have to be 1 or negative 1. So we've learned in the past that if it's a 4th degree polynomial, it could have 4 roots. Okay, so we have found the 4 roots. X equals, and it doesn't matter what order you write them in. A lot of times write smallest to largest. So negative 6, negative 1, 1, or 6. Okay, so that's it. You just do that tricky little substitution there. So I'll do another one for you. Okay, in this one we have y to the 4th minus 10y squared plus 9 equals 0. Okay, so we can make our little u equals y squared. So we'd have u squared minus 10u plus 9 equals 0. So we can factor that, u minus 9, u minus 1. So u is 9, or u is 1, which means y squared is 9, or y squared is 1, which means y equals negative 1, positive 1, or negative 3, positive 3. Just like that. Okay? And that's it. So that is 5 topics. I'm going to stop that and start a new video for the next one.